Welcome to Agentic Workflows the Money series, Episode 6, Delivering Client Work with AI.
It's the moment of truth, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, we've spent the last few episodes talking about the theory, the sales pitch, all the, Gold Rush excitement around this.
Right.
We've covered finding clients, structuring the offer, pressing it, but today we're zooming in on that terrifying but also kind of exhilarating moment.
Mm-hmm.
You've sent the proposal, the client said yes, the deposit just hit your bank account.
And the reality sets in.
Yeah.
Now you actually have to do the thing.
Exactly. Now you have to deliver. And honestly, this is where I think the panic really hits for a lot of people, because selling a vision of like AI, autonomy, and magical efficiency, that's one thing.
Oh, yeah, that's the easy part.
But handing over a reliable functioning system that doesn't just, hallucinate or burn through all your API credits or crash at 3 in the morning, that is a completely different beast.
It is. And that's the bridge we're crossing in this deep dive. We're moving from what you could call the playing with AI phase,
Chatting with a bot, asking it to write a poem or something.
Exactly. A LinkedIn post. We're moving from that to engineering reliability. This is all about the delivery phase. It's the bridge between the promise you made and, well, the paycheck you actually want to keep.
And what really strikes me about the material we have for this deep dive is that it's not just high-level fluff. We're not talking about the future of work in these big, broad strokes.
This is granular.
It's super granular. We're looking at an end-to-end process. We're going to cover everything from like the translation layer, how you turn a client's messy document into actual code, all the way to the psychology of coding the agent itself.
That psychological aspect is what really grabbed me. The idea that you have to almost code a personality into the software to make it reliable.
Right.
How do you code a digital employee that acts like a star performer instead of, a helpless intern?
We are absolutely going to unpack that employee A versus employee B concept. And we're also going to talk about God mode development, running 5 AIs at once to solve a problem, and then the business logic, the pricing, how you build a competitive moat. But let's start at the very beginning, the client handoff.
Right. The deposit is in, contract signed. So it usually starts with a mess.
A huge mess.
A huge mess.
Yeah.
The client hands you a Google Doc or maybe a folder full of PDFs, and this is the classic, they just talk at you for an hour on a Zoom call.
Oh, I've been on that call.
We all have. They're like, okay, so here's how we do lead gen.
Yeah.
We scrape a list, then we check LinkedIn, then we email them. But don't email them if they look grumpy in their profile picture or whatever nonsense it is. It's so vague.
It's a messy doc. And I think the first instinct for a beginner, for an agency owner, is just to panic. Because that's not structured code. You can't just feed don't email grumpy people into a Python script.
You can't.
But the source material flips this whole idea on its head. It says the messy doc is actually the gold mine.
Precisely. You have to reframe what you're looking at. You have to think of that standard operating procedure, that SOP, as just a recipe for a human.
Okay.
And humans are incredibly good at filling in the gaps. If a recipe says add salt to taste, a human knows what that means, based on context and experience. A robot does not. A robot needs to be told, add exactly 4.2 grams of sea salt.
So the robot just panics at to taste.
It panics, exactly. So the very first step of delivery is what we're calling the translation layer. You are converting a human recipe into a machine directive.
And this isn't about you, the human, sitting there and just typing out Python from scratch, right? I think that's a big misconception people have, that you need to be this master coder to even begin this phase.
No, not at all. And that's the beauty of modern IDEs, these integrated development environments like Cursor or Windsurf, or even just using the advanced models right in your browser. The process literally starts with drag and drop engineering.
Wait, really? Drag and drop?
You take that messy PDF, that Word doc, whatever it is, and you drag it right into your workspace context.
You just drop the file in.
You drop it in, and then you prompt the agent. You say something like, I just uploaded a file, turn this into a directive, and then build the execution scripts to make it happen.
That sounds deceptively simple, turn this into a directive. But surely the AI doesn't just spit out perfect working code from some vague document.
No, and you don't want it to. This is what triggers what we call the interrogation phase. And this is maybe the most crucial step.
Okay.
Because the SOP is so vague, the agent analyzes it and immediately hits these road bumps. But it doesn't just guess if you've prompted it correctly. It starts asking clarifying questions.
Questions the client probably has never even thought to ask themselves.
Exactly that. The client says, send an email. The agent analyzes that step and comes back with, okay, but what happens if the email bounces? What if the data is missing for this contact? Do we retry sending it? If so, how many times? What's the fallback if it fails 3 times? Do we log that error to a Slack channel or just ignore it?
I see. Wow. So you're not just automating a process anymore. You're actually stress testing their entire business logic.
You're cleaning up their house for them. And that is a massive value add before you've even written a single line of real code. You're forcing the client, or more likely you're acting on behalf of the client, to define all of their edge cases.
That's a really important distinction. The client thinks they're paying you to write a script, but what they're really paying you for is to operationalize their ambiguity.
100%. You're turning vibes into logic. And this is often where you catch things that have been, bleeding money for the client for years. They might have a realization like, oh, wow, we never actually follow up on bounced emails. We've been losing, 10% of our leads just because of typos? The automation process shines a giant spotlight on all the cracks in their manual process.
So once you get through that interrogation phase, once you've answered all the questions about bounce rates and fallbacks and all that, you end up with a directive. Let's unpack that term because it comes up constantly in the source material. A directive isn't just a paragraph of text. It has a very, very specific structure.
Right. You want reliability, you need structure. It's that simple. And a functional directive has to have 4 key elements. If you miss one of these, the agent will fail. Or worse, it'll get stuck in a loop.
Okay, walk us through them. What are the 4?
First, you have the objective statement. What is this thing actually doing? It should be one simple sentence. This agent scrapes LinkedIn for profiles of VPs of marketing. Clarity is king here. You can't have, and also maybe checks Facebook if it has time. One agent, one clear mission.
Okay, so keep it super focused. Got it.
Second, the input specification. What data do I need to even start this process?
Like, I need a CSV file and it has to have these specific headers, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. Or, I need access to the Gmail API with these permissions and a search query string. If the agent doesn't know its ingredients, it can't cook. It's like telling a chef to make lasagna but not giving them any pasta.
Makes total sense.
Third is the step-by-step process. Now, this is written in natural language, but it's highly logical. Step 1, open the input file. Step 2, read the first row. Step 3, if the email column in this row is empty, stop and log an error.
So it's basically pseudocode.
It is pseudocode, but it's legible to absolutely anyone. And fourth, and this is the one that people always forget, and it causes the most infinite loops, is the definition of done.
How does the robot know it won? How does it know the game is over?
Yes, you have to tell it explicitly. You are finished when there is a Google Sheet with 100 new rows filled. Or you are finished when the source inbox is completely empty. Without that, an agent might just run forever, burning through your tokens, or it might stop halfway through because it just, felt like it was done.
Oh man, I can just imagine the bill if an agent gets stuck in a loop because it doesn't have a clear finish line.
It's the classic rookie mistake.
Right.
You come back in the morning and you've spent $500 on OpenAI credits because the agent kept checking an empty inbox over and over and over again.
Yikes. Okay, so we've translated the messy human SOP into a rigid, clear directive. We have our objective, our inputs, the steps, and our definition of done. Now we have to actually build the agent that's going to execute this. And this brings us to one of my absolute favorite concepts from this entire deep dive, the psychology of the agent.
This is a total game changer. Most people, especially traditional developers, think of code as cold, hard logic. It's Boolean, true or false.
Right.
But when you're dealing with LLMs, with large language models, you're dealing with something probabilistic. It's stochastic. It's much more like training a dog than it is programming a VCR.
Right.
You actually have to define its personality.
The source material uses this fantastic analogy of employee A versus employee B. I think anybody listening who has ever managed a team will immediately recognize these two types.
Oh, it is the perfect analogy for business owners. Yeah. Let's talk about employee first. This is the blocker. Yeah. This is the junior employee who hits the first tiny, tiny error. Maybe a website takes 2 seconds too long to load, or a button moved 3 pixels to the left, and they just stop. They freeze.
They just throw their hands up in the air.
They throw their hands up and they send you a Slack message. Hey, boss, this didn't work. What do I do?
They make their problem your problem.
Precisely. They are helpless. They delegate up. They treat every minor deviation from the plan as a catastrophic, world-ending failure. Now, contrast that with employee B.
The star performer.
The star performer. They hit a snag. The website didn't load. What do? They hit refresh. They check their internet connection. They try a different browser. They document the fix. They try a completely different angle. They only come to you if the building is literally on fire.
They own the outcome, not just the individual task.
Exactly. And the really crazy thing is, You can actually code this mindset into the AI. You can explicitly tell it to be employee B.
How? Is it just like a prompt, please be a good employee and don't bother me?
It's a little more structural than that. It's usually done through a system prompt file, something often called agents.md in the project's repository.
Yeah.
And you explicitly instruct the agent on its behavioral constraints.
Quite.
You write something like, your primary goal is to run autonomously. Test each system you create. Identify your own mistakes. Loop repeatedly on your code until it works. Only come to me if you are 100% confident you cannot solve this problem yourself.
It's like giving them a little pep talk before they start their shift. Don't bother me unless it's absolutely critical.
But you back up that pep talk with a process. And that process is called the self-annealing loop.
I love this term, annealing. That's from metallurgy, right?
It is. It's the process where you heat up a metal and then cool it down really slowly to remove all the internal defects and make it stronger. In our context, the heat is an error. When the agent hits an error, say an API rate limit or a button that isn't clickable anymore, it doesn't crash. It catches the error. That's the heat.
Okay, so instead of just a big red fatal error screen, it enters a totally different mode.
Right. It enters a diagnosis loop. It reads the error message. It hypothesizes a fix. Maybe I need to wait 60 seconds before trying again. Maybe I need to scroll down the page before I can click that button. It implements the fix, it retries, and this is the absolute key, it updates its own instructions for the next time it runs.
So the workflow, it essentially heals itself.
It creates a callus.
Yeah.
If a website changes its button layout, the agent figures out the new layout, it updates the script, and the next time it doesn't error out. Problems become features. Every single error makes the system more robust for the future.
That is it's profound. You're not just building a script, you're building an immune system for the workflow.
That is a beautiful way to put it. An immune system. And just think about the value of that to a client. A script that breaks every Tuesday morning is a liability. A script that fixes itself is an asset. It means you, as the agency owner, are not getting woken up at 3 a.m. because LinkedIn changed their CSS class names again.
Which they do all the time.
Constantly. If you build employee A, you have a job. If you build employee B, you have a business.
So we have our directive, we have our employee B mindset in place. Now we actually enter the build phase, the coding. And this is where the source material suggests something that, again, it feels like science fiction. It's about how to find the best solution, not just a solution that works.
The exploration of the solution space.
Right. The traditional way is, I sit down, I write a script, I test it, I fix the bugs. It's all very linear. One developer, one brain. But the source suggests using what they call the 5 simultaneous Claudes technique.
This is God mode for developers.
Yeah.
The idea is, instead of asking one single agent to build a lead gen scraper and just hoping it picks the right strategy, you leverage parallelization. You open up 5 separate instances of the AI, let's say Claude 3.5 Sonnet or Opus.
And you just give them all the same mission.
You give them the same mission, but you frame it a little differently. You say, give me 5 distinct and separate approaches to solve this problem. Use separate TMP temporary folders for each of your attempts so you don't overwrite each other's work.
Oh, that's smart. Why the separate folders? That's a key detail.
It's critical. Because if you have 5 robots all trying to write to the same main.py file at the same time, you just get garbage. You get code collisions. You need them to sandbox themselves.
Got it. So they're all running in their own little parallel universes.
Exactly. And instance 1 might try a serial approach. Scrape 1 lead, save it, scrape the next. It's safe, but it's slow. Instance 2 might try a batch approach, scrape 100 leads at once using Asensio or threading. It's super fast, but it's risky. You might get your IP address banned. Instance 3 might find some hidden undocumented API that you didn't even know existed. Instance 4 might use a browser automation tool like Selenium, while Instance 5 tries a super lightweight library like Requests.
You're basically running a genetic algorithm on software architecture in real time. You're forcing evolution to happen in minutes.
And the cost. It's negligible compared to human developer time. You generate and test 5 completely different software architectures in the time it takes you to drink a cup of coffee. Then you get to play the judge. You look at all 5 results side by side.
And you can pull a Frankenstein maneuver, right? You can mix and match.
Yes, this is where your human judgment is still absolutely vital.
Right.
You aren't just picking the winner, you are synthesizing. You say, okay, I'll take the robust error handling from Instance 1, the raw speed of Instance 2, and the API discovery from Instance 3, and then you ask the agent to merge them all into a single, unified workflow. You're collapsing weeks of R&D into just a few minutes.
It really emphasizes how the role changes. You're not the coder anymore. You are the architect. You're the orchestrator.
You are the orchestrator. You're steering the ship, you're not rowing the boat, and frankly, this is how you justify high fees. You aren't billing for the hour you spent typing, you're billing for the sophisticated architectural decision-making that resulted in a vastly superior product.
But there is a trap here, isn't there? With all this power, with 5 Claudes at your fingertips, you could get stuck just tinkering forever. The source material talks about this optimization trap.
Yes, the perfectionist dilemma. Can I make it just 2% faster? Can I save 3 tokens on this prompt? Can I make the code look a little prettier? It is so easy to get lost in the weeds.
So what's the rule? How do you know when to stop building and start shipping?
The expert advice here is the order of magnitude rule, or what you can call the 10x rule. The rule is this: do not optimize unless you can get a 10x improvement in a key metric, and that metric could be speed, cost, or accuracy.
10x is a really high bar.
It is, but look at the example they gave in the source. They moved from a serial scraper that took 20 minutes to process a list to a parallel batch scraper that took only 1 minute. That's a 20x improvement. That is worth your time. That fundamentally changes the business economics of the process.
Right. But if you're just, I don't know, shaving 10 seconds off a 5-minute process.
Ignore it. Ship the product. You are in the business of delivery, not academic perfection. Clients do not pay for elegant code. They pay for results. If the code is ugly but it works and it's reliable, it ships.
I like that. Ship the product. Speaking of shipping, let's talk about the actual deliverables. This is a question I hear all the time from people who are new to this agency model. Okay, I've built this amazing agentic workflow in my IDE. What do I actually email the client?
It's a great question because you're not emailing them a screenshot of a chat window. You're delivering a real product. The source breaks this down into a package.
Okay, so what's in the package?
It's usually 4 main components. First, the directives. These are those markdown files, the .md files we talked about. The logic, the brain of the operation. This also serves as the documentation of what the system is thinking.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second, you've got the execution scripts. These are usually Python scripts that handle all the deterministic tasks, the API calls, the math, moving files around.
The hands.
The hands, exactly.
Yeah.
Third, the environment file, or .env. This is crucial for security. This is where the API keys and passwords and credentials live. You never, ever, ever hard code a password into the script itself. That's how you get hacked. You'll put it in the .env file so it's completely separate.
And finally,
The documentation. A simple README file explaining how to turn the key. Simple instructions. Install Python, run this one command, and enjoy.
but hold on, does the client usually run this code themselves? Do they open up VS Code and hit run? I feel like for most business owners, that's a total non-starter. They don't have Python installed. They don't know what a terminal is.
Usually, no. That's where the wrapper concept comes in. You often cloudify the workflow. You take those execution scripts and you move them to a cloud environment, like Replit or Modal, or even a dedicated server, and then you create a trigger.
Like a webhook.
Exactly. So the deliverable for the client might just be a URL, or a button inside their existing CRM, or even just an email address. When a new lead fills out a type form on their website, it triggers the webhook. The cloud runs the Python script, the agent does all the thinking, and the result just magically appears in their Slack channel.
So to the client, it is just magic. It's a black box.
Transparency is actually overrated here. They don't want to see how the sausage is made. They don't want to see the 50 lines of Python or the 30-minute reasoning loop the agent went through. They want the result. You are delivering an outcome, not a transcript.
That distinction is so key. You're not selling the chat. You're selling the functional tool. Which brings us finally to the money. This is the money series, after all. How do we turn these files and scripts into a sustainable, profitable business strategy?
This is where we talk about the workflow library as your competitive mode. The source uses this fantastic term, horizontal leverage.
The leverage is my favorite word. Break that down for us.
Okay, so think about the old model of agency work. You hire a human to do a task. If you get a second client who needs the same task, you either need that human to work double the hours or you have to hire a second human. It scales linearly. Your costs go up right alongside your revenue.
Linear scaling is painful. The margins just get squeezed to nothing.
It's brutal, but with agentic workflows, you live by the mantra, build once, sell n times. Let's say you build a really, really robust lead scraper workflow for a client. It handles errors gracefully, it enriches emails with data, it checks LinkedIn, it's beautiful. You build that for client A.
Okay. Get paid for it. Done.
Now client B comes along. They're in a totally different industry, but they need lead scraping too. You don't start from scratch. You go to your library, you copy the directives folder and the execution folder, you paste them into Client B's new workspace, you update the API keys in their .env file, and you are done in 5 minutes.
And this is the absolute crucial part. You charge them the full value for that workflow.
You charge for the value, not the time. That is the leverage. Your value isn't your hourly labor anymore. It is your library. That library is your core asset. It's your competitive moat because you can deploy a complex, battle-tested system in minutes that would take a competitor weeks to build from scratch.
That completely shifts the pricing model. You can't charge by the hour if a project takes you 5 minutes. You'd go broke.
Exactly. If you charge by the hour, you are actively penalizing yourself for being efficient. The source suggests 3 primary models to handle this.
Let's go through them.
First is per workflow or project-based. Very simple. I will build you a CRM automation system for $5,000. Flat fee. The client knows the cost, you know the deliverable. This works really well for one-off tools.
Clean. I like it.
Second is the retainer or management model. I will ensure your 10,000 automated tasks run smoothly every single month for $2,000 a month. This is fantastic because APIs change, things break. You are selling peace of mind. It's automation as a service.
And the third one.
Value-based pricing. This is the holy grail. If your workflow automates 90% of a role that costs the client $60,000 a year, and you charge $15,000 for it, the client is still saving an absolute fortune. You price based on the economic value you provide.
The 10x rule applies to value, too. If you give them 10 times the value of what you charge, they will pay it happily every single time.
Precisely. And remember, you own the library. You are effectively licensing the capability to them. You are building intellectual property. Every single project you complete adds a new Lego block to your library that makes the next project faster, easier, and more profitable. Okay, let's ground all this in reality. I want to walk through a concrete example from the source material to tie all these concepts, the directive, employee B, God mode, the deliverable, all of it together. A real-world scenario. The inbound email workflow.
A classic. Every single business struggles with this.
So the client scenario is this. They are drowning in email. They want their inbound email sorted, summarized, and flagged. Is this a lead? Is this a complaint? Is this just spam?
Okay, let's build it right now. Step 1. The directive. We translate their SOP.
So the objective statement is something simple like, classify incoming emails and take the appropriate action. Right. And then the logic, the brain needs specific instructions. If it's a lead, extract the contact's name and their intent. If it's complaint, draft a polite acknowledgement email, but do not send it. Just save it as a draft. If it's spam, delete it immediately.
Okay. Step 2. The build, which is the execution scripts. We need the hands for the operation.
Right. So the agent writes a Python script to connect to the Gmail API. That's deterministic code. It either works or it doesn't. Then it writes another script to update a Google Sheet or their CRM with the new lead data. Then a third script to ping a Slack channel.
Then step 3, the test. We use that 5-instance method we were talking about.
We run simultaneous tests with slightly different classification prompts to see which logic is the most accurate, which one correctly realizes that I'm interested in your product is a lead, but I'm interested in selling you my product is spam.
That nuance is so tricky. Language is incredibly subtle.
It is. So you test and test until you minimize the false positives.
Yeah.
You check the definition of done, and you move on.
And finally, step 4, the handoff.
You set it up as a background task. Maybe it's a cron job in the cloud that runs every 5 minutes. The client never, ever sees the Python code. They just see their inbox magically organizing itself and their Slack channel pinking with hot leads all day.
And because we were smart and we coded in the employee B mindset.
If the Gmail API connection drops for a second, or if their CRM is down for a minute for maintenance,
the workflow doesn't crash, it just waits.
It waits, it retries a few times, it self-anneals, it handles the error gracefully without ever waking the client up.
That is the absolute dream.
It is, and it's so accessible now. This isn't theoretical physics, it's drag-and-drop natural language engineering.
So if we zoom out and look at the big picture here, delivery is really about 3 things. Translation, from human to AI, psychology, building that resilient employee B mindset, and asset building, creating your library.
And shifting your own identity. You are moving from being a service provider, somebody who just trades their time for money, to becoming a system architect. You're building the machines that build the wealth.
That is a very powerful place to be. You know, looking at all of this, the most exciting part for me is that the barrier to entry isn't really coding skill anymore. It's the ability to think clearly about a process.
Absolutely. The new coding language is English, or whatever natural language you speak. If you can articulate a process clearly and logically, you can build an agent.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. I mean, from messy docs to self-healing robots.
It's a brave new world for agencies, that's for sure.
It certainly is. And for everyone listening, I think your homework is to take one messy process that you have, just one, and try to translate it into a directive. See what questions the agent asks you.
You will be surprised at what you learn about your own business.
Deliver fast, deliver well, keep the library. Episode 7, Making It Run Without You.